All right, welcome in Dorm Boots. I actually had somebody in here right until start time, so I need to go and grab cushion, and I'll be right back, and then we'll get started. For those that watching at home, we're going to kind of go over the concept of armor and what that means in a Buddhist context. A lot of our Christian peers will go over like, oh, put on the full armor of God or whatever. That's their thing. We have a very different understanding of what spiritual armor looks like, what it means, and why it exists, and what we do with it. And we'll go over some of the many examples that we see of that in the Dharma. So, all right. And I think since I didn't get a chance to light the candles ahead of time, I'm going to shift them to the shorter ones. Longer candles burn longer. As you can see, there's a significant difference. Let's save the longer candles for when we can actually utilize them appropriately. do so after the service is finished, or if you're watching after the live portion, do feel free, as soon as we're done with our first 5 minutes, to pause, do whatever additional meditation feels appropriate, and then come back.
believe it or not, playing for no mission. It's actually better than perfect vision.
Good deal.
Yeah.
It's useful.
That and hearing. Apparently, my hearing's part of you have a cold. When you're not supposed to do a hearing test when you have a cold, because your airways have friction in them, which causes you to mishear things. I had a really bad cold and I aced it. And so I was like, I wonder if I can do better if I didn't have a cold. So perfect vision, perfect hearing.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to start, I believe the one we have starts with the Lotus Sutra, the longer Pure Land Sutra, the Parasharamparamita Sutra. All of these are basic Mahayana texts, and on the back we also have the Adamantine Pinnacle Sutra, which comes out of the Vajrayana tradition. We don't see too much of the concept of armor we see some of it in the Theravada tradition, but it's not as pronounced, and I'm going to say that probably the Mahayana tradition has a little bit more nuanced view than the Theravada side on this one.
And of course you don't need physical armor. And of course you don't need physical armor.
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of instances where the Buddha or physical armor is discussed. One was on Guatemala. We see it a couple of times in the Yoda Jiva Sutras, both of them. And then we do see a couple of instances outside of that where the Buddha is talking specifically to a couple of warriors or a warrior who comes in and asks some questions. And we will see a little bit of, he talks about, you wouldn't employ a guy without armor, right, to go and fight battles. So in the same case, you wouldn't employ somebody who hadn't done the work to armor themselves, right?
Okay.
So there's a little bit of that, but not quite as much, and it's definitely not as nuanced. So, starting from the Lotus Sutra, chapter 13, in a muddy kalpa, which is a length of time that is basically infinite. Not really, because there's lots and lots and lots of kalpas, but one kalpa is the amount of time that would take to completely grind down a mountain. That is, right, that is X number of meters high or X number of miles high, and you're coming at it once every 100 years and giving it one stroke with a silk cloth. It's basically forever. Not really, but basically.
Oh, yeah, I want to see that happen.
So we are in one kalpa. We're not in the muddy kalpa. We're not there yet, although some have argued that we are. In a muddy kalpa, in an evil age, there will be many things to fear. Evil demons will take possession of others, and through them curse, revile, and heap shame on us. But we, reverently trusting in the Buddha, will put on the armor of perseverance. Now, again, this is very clearly not a physical suit of armor, right? The armor of perseverance is saying we are going to arm our minds such that we are able to persevere, that we are able to be determined and keep going. This is resilience, this is endurance, all in one. This is a beautiful thing. This is a beautiful kind of armor. We will put on the armor of perseverance in order to preach the sutra. We will bear these difficult things. So next we have a section from the longer Pure Land Sutra on Dharmakara's practice and virtues. And it says, he continued to perfect the great vow for the sake of all beings, with reverence towards the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, his teachers, his preceptors, and his good friends on the path. And we will come back to that when we get to the Vajrayana portion with the Adamantine Pinnacle Sutra. Always wearing the armor of Bodhisattva practice, he was upright, kind-hearted, never hypocritical or boastful. Virtuous, he took the lead in encouraging beings in the practice of meritorious conduct. So here we have armor is seen as a kind of way of doing things almost. So the things that you do, or the things that would be this armor of Bodhisattva practice, are things that are upright. You do things that are upright, you do things that are kind-hearted, you do things that are not hypocritical or boastful, you do things that are virtuous, and you do things that are going to, you're going to take So this is kind of like armor that says, yes, we can do these good things, and you can join us.
I like that it's not too different from the Lotus Sutra, where it's perseverance is speaking the action of the heaven, if you will, almost an inertia. Of course, you can practice perseverance not having to be in the inertian state of life, if you will. And then you have the longer Pure Land, where it's in the act of. So if you're stationary and you're working on your mind, because your mind is somewhat stationary since metaphor you're trying to persevere with whatever you're going through. Once you've figured out how to persevere, you then can start sharing that with people, such as the kindness
and the meritorious deeds. Yep, sure.
Kind-hearted and upright. And then since you have that, it's not a gift that you give to other people without having to harm yourself and just perseverance, because you don't need to harm yourself if you have perseverance with harming your fire. So I don't know, it's something that I caught that I like.
Oh yeah, that's definitely part of it. Moving on to the Prajnaparamita Sutra. Arouse your will, supreme and great. Practice loving kindness, give joy and protection. Let your giving be like space, without discrimination or limitation. Do good things, not for your own sake, but for the sake of all beings in the universe. Save and make free everyone you encounter. Help them attain the wisdom of the way. So here we have kind of like an extension of the Pure Land, and timeline-wise, they were probably roughly, if my memory serves me, and feel free to call me out on this one if my timeline is off. I believe the Heart Sutra came before the Pure Land Sutras, but you have kind of like, so you kind of have this like a little bit of evolution of, hey, this is what you do to protect others, this is what you do to help them, right? You put on this armor of Bodhisattva practice and you keep going and you encourage them. The Lotus Sutra, depending, I think was probably a little bit earlier. It would have been like right around the turn of the Common Era. And I think the Heart Sutra was maybe a little bit before that, but not by much. Unless my brain is just absolutely forgetting, and if so, do like those Dharmawoods watching at home, do feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that one. My brain is just not remembering timelines, other than I'm pretty sure that that's the order that they came in, but I could be very wrong. And if I am, I'm okay with that. I'm open to correction. That again would be a virtuous thing, right? Making sure that you are, or allowing yourself to be corrected when you are wrong is virtuous in nature. Okay, moving on to, and I think you don't have the whole one because I think I specifically cropped it down to just the udanas, just the verse portions. And we'll just read the verse portions for all the rest of the Dharmawoods as well. Note that this is an entire thing, and I should probably kind of explain. The Vajrayana look at things from, shall we say, a much more creative standpoint, from a much more creative basis.
Adjectively or descriptively?
Descriptively. So, in here we have, what we're talking about here is, and if you go back and read through the whole passage, it won't make any sense unless you know that this is talking about the formation of a mandala, right? A very specific mandala in which different bodhisattvas take up different spots that are delineated by the person doing the translating as being in this particular spot. So like, this is, I'm pretty sure, Rolf Geibel, and so he puts it like, this particular bodhisattva is in big D, capital D, small c, or capital D, small d, that kind of thing, right? Where each one is in its own particular spot that is marked. And that's how we kind of are supposed to understand, like, okay, this is this corner, and so forth. So we have a specific bodhisattva who is marked, or who is depicted on this mandala who is known as Duryodhana Virya. And I talk about him from time to time because the whole point of this one, and this is where I'm saying it, the Mahayana and the Vajrayana kind of took it in and gave it a little bit more nuance, gave armor a little bit more nuance than the Theravada side. So this Duryodhana Virya, whose name whose name essentially comes down to the firmness of energy. The translation there is probably going to not be correct. It's close enough. Invincible energy. So he comes in to ask all of the bodhisattvas on this mandala come to ask the Buddha Mahavairocana, the cosmic Buddha, right? Because they kind of went off on like a little, like every realm has different Buddhas, and so they're talking about that particular cosmic Buddha, Mahavairocana, and everybody is coming to ask questions or to kind of seek instruction, seek guidance, and so Duryodhana Virya comes in, and the whole point of having him is he is the samaya of protection of all the Tathagatas, all the Buddhas. So this is how we protect the Buddha. And the way that we do that is essentially he comes in and Vajrapani, who is kind of one of the Mahasattvas, one of the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, comes in and he kind of like, you see him shift into all of these different forms based on the bodhisattvas that are in that area. So in this case, he shifts into a suit of armor, or actually a multitude of firm suits of armor. And when they appear, they combine and become one and become this great adamantine suit of armor which settled on the Buddha's palm, which is interesting in and of itself, right? So from this form of an adamantine suit of armor, there appeared the figures of Tathagatas, equal in number to the dust motes of all world systems, and they all perform the play of the supernatural powers of the Buddhas, such as the deeds, and then owing to their invincible energy and the extreme firmness of the Vajrasattva Samadhi, the meditation, they combined and became one, thus producing the figure of the great Bodhisattva Duryodhana Virya, who settled in the heart of the Buddha, the world-honored one, the Buddha Vairochana, and uttered this udana. And here's where we're just going to do the two udanas because they matter a lot. So the udanas are verses, and the first one, there are two of them. The first one is, how wonderful, the armor of energy. I am the firm one among the firm. Because of my firmness, I become the adamantine superior body for those without a body. So what we're talking about here, yes, we can talk about him being like the, protection for the Buddha, but this is also protection for all people, all beings, especially those who may not. This is protection for those who don't have protection. This is us having compassion for those who maybe are not in a good way, who maybe are weak or vulnerable or in trouble or in being threatened by violence or whatever. This is us coming in and saying, they don't have any protection. I can come in and protect them. They don't have a body. I can come in and be that body for them. Which again is a little bit more complex than the Buddha talking about armor in terms of like, Angulimala takes off all of the armor and becomes a monk. Cool, right? This is a little bit more complex. So then Duryodhana Virya descended and took up his place on the lunar disk, where he again requested instructions, and the Buddha, in order to save and protect all realms of sentient beings without exception, and so that they might experience complete well-being and happiness, as well as for the attaining of the fruit of accomplishment, of the adamantine body of all the Tathagatas, he conferred upon Duryodhanavirya the samaya, the vow of perfection of energy of all the Tathagatas in the form of adamantine armor. So this is not the physical armor, this is the adamantine will to protect others and to help others. And he consecrated him with an adamantine name, calling him Vajramitra, which means adamantine loving friend. And I will bring up just one quick little tangent, and that is that what my role is essentially as a chaplain is to be a Kalyana Mitra, and what is known as an admirable friend, who my close friend, who I actually just got to see the other last weekend when she was here in town, Dr. Monica Sanford, she wrote books on Buddhist chaplaincy titled exactly that, because that's a kind of an idea of a thing that we should be as chaplains, is we should be that admirable friend. And here we have one of the bodhisattvas being called adamantine friend, right? Adamantine loving friend, right? This unshakable, unbreakable friend for those who don't have a friend. Who then utters the second Udana, and this is the supreme armor of loving kindness of all Buddhas, the great protection of firm energy. It is called great loving friend. So the armor itself is a great loving friend, and the armor itself is how we are supposed to operate, or how this particular bodhisattva is going to operate, and thus how we, as people who are following the Buddhist teachings, should be operating, right? We should be this great loving friend for others. We should be this protector for others, right? We should always have that compassion, always have that sense of loving kindness for these, for all of these beings, for all sentient beings. Yes, that is going to be incredibly difficult. I'm not even going to countenance that with this is going to be super easy, we can totally do this in a weekend. No, that's not how that works. that's Dharma, that's not how that works. But it is something that we should practice, and that's something that we can perfect, something that we, with the right effort, we can keep, perfecting a little bit at a time. The way that at my home temple, the founder of my particular order likes to phrase it is in terms of sculpture, in terms of sculpting, right? So what do you do with sculpture, right? You have a block of material, right? And every, a little bit at a time, right? Because you don't want to just put the chisel in and then just crack the thing in half, right? That's not going to work, right? So you chisel a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And then once you have it basically, roughed out, then you sand it down a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And eventually, this really awesome thing comes out of this block of stuff, right? In the same way, if we are practicing, we should be doing that same thing with ourselves, right? Perfecting ourselves in the way that you would perfect a sculpture, but a living sculpture. And if we're doing this in the way that we're talking about with armor, then we should be perfecting this protection for others. We should be perfecting this loving kindness for others. We should be perfecting this compassion for others. And that takes a lot of effort, and that's why the name of that particular bodhisattva is invincible energy, because you're going to need a whole lot of energy to do that, especially when there are people out there who we really would like to not have that compassion for. We may know some of them. We may have some of them in our units. We may have some of them at work that we see day to day. That, given the things that the things that we have seen them do, we probably would love to say, no, that one's not worthy of compassion. Well, sad to say it, yes, they are. And to have that compassion is going to require a lot of energy, which is, again, why they named that particular bodhisattva invincible energy, right? As a reminder to us that sometimes we're going to have to put in a lot of effort, and it's going to cost us a lot of energy, right? We're going to have to use a lot of energy to have that compassion, even for those who we probably otherwise wouldn't want to have compassion for. But we still have to do that. Because the Bodhisattva practices, the Bodhisattva path is not a quick and easy one. It's not designed to be simple. It is designed to be effective. But you gotta put the effort in. And that's always, always, always the precondition, right? You put the effort in, it will be effective. You don't put the effort in, you know, you get what you get. But we are supposed to be better than that, right? We are supposed to take the example of and take inspiration from that Bodhisattva infinite or invincible energy and keep at it, keep trying, keep putting in the energy, keep putting in the effort, even keep being determined, keep being, like they said in the Lotus Sutra, keep persevering, even when it's difficult to do so, because that's the right thing to do. So what we're getting at here is action and integrity. Action, doing the right thing, even when it's not super easy to do it.
I want to kind of bring in a metaphor here. It kind of set up me, but it's something I read about a long time ago. There's an ancient form of making samurai armor through one of the parts of crafting said armor is through washi paper or washing paper, something.
The washi paper, yeah. Basically like the rice paper.
Right. And it's formed in such a meticulous way as you're building the armor that it helps with like blunt force trauma, such as like, you know, swords. It's not like piercing, but like some levels of like.
Like if somebody's going to take a swing at you, it'll at least blunt the blow a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it was mobile light enough that they were still able to, you know, move around and be more agile. And in some cases, it's considered as the early forms of Kevlar. Because early forms of Kevlar were made through rotating, the weaving of just
the nylon bi-weave, yeah.
thin material. Point being, right, is that they had to go through this whole process of making paper back in the day. It's not a very easy process. I don't know if you've ever like done.
Oh yeah, I've seen them making paper. It takes forever and a day to do it.
Making your own paper is a really fun side project. Every time you do it, it's fun. It's incredibly annoying. So you have a whole suit of armor that's made through this very meticulous process. And it's only one of like 4 layers in the armor. And early parchment has animal leather as well. So depending on how you take from like sound shipping, more shipping, kind of things differently because of the empire. This is a very difficult thing. So it's something that you have to go out time and patience and learning skill craft to do. And I don't know why, but I've attached to this because
I mean, it fits, right? We have to persevere. We have to keep going.
You have to make it
throughout the process, right?
And it's a lot of learning. It's a lot of patience. And it's not something that samurai armor was something you just give people. It was usually like passed out, which doesn't really align with my metaphor very well. I digress. You can't give somebody the ability to be an armor for somebody. It's something that kind of happens in life, right? And then eventually, if you can harness that moment, you can turn it into a difficult tool such as armor would be. But even as one such as myself, I haven't found a way to make that into a tool. I haven't found the armor to be a person of constant protection. I would argue that I'm more like most people where my armor that I can give or abuse or utilize is at convenience and at a state of urgency. So when I can see it and it's openly there for me, I'm like, that person does me well. Whereas I have not been oftentimes a person people tend to request to be someone's armor. And that's kind of, you know, it's a work in progress. Like I said, you know, weaving that paper and making the paper and the other 3 stages of building samurai armor is a very difficult, meticulous thing. And I've only been around for 22 years and haven't been practicing all my life. So I don't have a whole lot of like abilities on it. But what I will say is that this is where I would be, right? As you were saying as a chaplain, you know, be the friends of people who lack the friends of firmness.
Yeah, be the protection for those without protection. Be the
unfortunately, today's day and age, where you play media, social media, whatever else, there's a lot of the opposite. There's a lot of armor deflection, if you will. I'm not sure as a Buddhist touch on this, but there's a lot of like, this is my niche group, you can't, like gatekeeping, a lot of gatekeeping.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Gatekeeping and deflection and kind of holding people back, using kind of like using a kind of mental armor to make sure that people don't get in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's
Very different concept, and that would be like the Buddha would look at that and be like, okay, well, how about you reflect and contemplate on what you're doing to this person?
Well, take for example, I'll finish this off very soon. Early 2000s, you had the rise of like the emo kid or like the black sheep, if you will, right? And then mid to late 2010s, you had the rise of that's the cool people now who look like them. But now if you're not like them, now you're the black sheep. Right? And I'm not saying that one is black sheep and one isn't. I'm saying that none of them are. I think we shall be accepting most things that are out there, of course, with a grain of salt. And so the unfortunate part is that there will always be a culture of inclusion and a culture of exclusion. And truthfully, you're going to need a bit of both, but I feel like you need mostly inclusion with some sprinkles. I say very light sprinkles of exclusion. There are some things that we talk about.
Oh yeah, the Buddha rejected abuse, and we can totally 100% bring that in and say, okay, there are some things that we simply exclude.
Like rudeness,
Yeah.
harmful, things that just don't benefit the great overall arching of humanity's
Exactly.
humanity.
Right. And that's what we're That's what if we're using the Bodhisattva armor, that's what we're protecting people
And
against.
that's skilled, well crafted, and so having chaplains around an army to bring it to more relativity is a very good thing. I'd be very upset if they remove chaplains one day entirely, because if somebody who realizes the assets that the chaplains are on almost a weekly basis, even without religious services, as the chaplain is, I would be very upset as somebody who considers themselves a black sheep among my unit. And to that, it's very personal, which is why I'm glad you took my suggestion to heart and made these things. So again, thank you.
Yeah, we're giving you the armor too.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So main point: armor is there to protect. Armor is there to help others. Armor is there for compassion, for loving kindness, for that good, for being that loving friend, for being that good friend to somebody who needs it and doesn't have it. And armor is going to take some perseverance. Like using that spiritual armor is going to take a little bit of perseverance, and it requires us to make the effort and put in the energy. All right, let's leave it at that. We'll go ahead and close out, and then we can move into more of a chat format. So. Thanks for watching, Darn Boots. We'll see you guys next time.